Hello everyone and welcome to another Foreman community demo. If you have any issues with the live stream, for example, if you're experiencing any buffering or you think the terminal windows, for example, are too small for you to properly read, please let us know and we'll do our best to remedy it. Weather is good today in Ireland. Internet connection seems to be great, but as you know, things can go strange, and if they do, please let us know. So if you have, as we are live, we are welcoming your questions and looking forward to them. So if you have any questions, please write to us in the YouTube live chat, or you can write on the Foreman on LibreChat IRC also. Both will be monitored. Feel free to ping me directly. Also mcorr if something comes up. So just before we begin today, I have just a few announcements. So yep, my screen is fine. Sorry, it's a little bit shaky on my side, but it looks okay. So our first announcement for today is the first release candidate for Foreman 3.3 is ready for a test drive. If you're a Foreman user who'd like to contribute to the Foreman project but are not necessarily in a position to code, testing our release candidates provides real value to the project. If you install the release candidates, for example, and walk through your regular workflows or have a look at the new features that are being added and test them out, that would contribute greatly to the stability of the future release, and we would really appreciate it. So information about the release candidates can be found on our community discourse, and after I stop talking, I'll post some links also in the live chat, and you can take a look if it's something that might interest you. And then next, we have a scheduled update coming to Foreman 3.2. So the first update to that is scheduled to happen next week, and it'll provide around 10 bug fixes. So thank you to everyone who upgraded to Foreman 3.2 and reported any issues that they found. And so Foreman 3.1. This our release manager for Foreman, Amit, has told me that this will be the final update to Foreman 3.1, and we can expect Foreman 3.1.3 to the update will arrive around the first week of June. And because it's the final update in the series, they want to just allow some time so they can add as many fixes to this update as possible. However, the release candidates for Foreman 3.3 are available, so perhaps you might consider upgrading to 3.2 so that you're on, a supported version or a more updated version in the future. Just some future proofing. And also the schedule, the release schedule, the timeline, expected kind of outline for Foreman 3.4 that has also been published in the Foreman community. So if you're interested in monitoring that in the progress, please check out the post. Again, I'll post some links to this both in the YouTube description and also in the live chat once I am finished. And now for some update on the Katello side, I am just going to ask my friend here, TomNook, if he has any updates for us.
That caught me off guard, Melanie. So Katello 4.5, it has a lot more of the host details work going on, and then also some of the new host details tab work done. So there's quite a lot of UI work going in, and then also the ACS, the API is built. Ian got that in. Samir started to get the framework for the UI in. So the ACS stuff is in the first RC, so that can be played around with, and Ian will share more with that. And then the RC 2 and so forth will come out, I'm thinking next week or week after, like the latest.
Cool. Thank you very much, Chris, for that. Okie doke. So that is pretty much everything from me. So I'm just going to take a look, but I think we have our first Our first, if we can call it a demo, our first talk today is going to be from Evgeni, and he's going to talk to us about LEAPP upgrades.
Hi. Yeah, actually it is a demo, so.
Fantastic.
Let me share screen. And this time around, select the right one. You are presenting. Yeah, perfect. Now you actually see what I want you to see. So, brief recap. In Foreman 3.2, we said that it would be the last release supporting CentOS 7, and you're supposed to upgrade to 8. We didn't quite make it in the right schedule or the right time frame. So 3.3 will still feature support for EL7, but that really will be the last one. So you essentially have, if you have a 3.2 or a 3.3, you can upgrade both of them in place from 7 to 8. And we are asking you to do this because after that, you're not going to have a chance to do the upgrade, and you'll end up having to redeploy everything, which can be nice, but the in-place stuff is usually more time-saving. For saving you even more time, we have prepared docs and a bit of a demo how to do this. And here we are. Where's the other window? So this is the upgrading Foreman documentation that you all, I hope, know. And in the next couple of days, it will gain a new section, which you see here in a local build that's called Upgrading Foreman from EL7 to EL8. And ignore that it's saying Red Hat Enterprise Linux. You can upgrade from any EL7 to any community-supported EL8. I didn't test it on Red Hat, on real Red Hat things, but it might even also work there. And I wanted to go over it with you and give you a very short jump through it, because I think it's kind of simple to do the upgrade if you have a system running. So let's just try it. The doc's currently saying Foreman 3.3 running on CentOS Linux 7. I have a 3.2, works identically well. You will need to install LEAPP not from the Alma Linux repository, but from our own, mainly because they didn't update to a build yet that supports all the things that we need in there. They're working on it, but they're not finished. And here's essentially a pre-built or beta build, whatever you want to call it, but it works. So the first thing is I'm going to enable this repository on my system. And just to prove it, it is a CentOS 7, and hammer pings tells you that something is reporting on the API, right? So I'm installing this repository, and it's an external one just because we didn't want to clutter hours for the small time frame that you're going to need it. Once we have the repository, we need to install a few packages, mainly LEAPP and LEAPP repository, which are the main workers for, like they contain all the code that does the migration, and LEAPP data, which contains the rules how to upgrade to the next thing. And LEAPP Data Center says that you would be upgraded to CentOS 8 Stream. You could equally say LEAPP Data Rocky or LEAPP Data Alma Linux, or I think also LEAPP Data Oracle Linux, and upgrade to one of those community rebuilds of RHEL. But I'm going with Stream because I like Stream. It pulls down quite a few of dependencies, but that's fine. Yep, install it. Those builds, even though they come from our own repository, are not specific to Foreman. So what they do not know is the repository layout of Foreman. because that's like, it's not part of CentOS or anything. So what we need to do is we need to add our repositories to the LEAPP repo configuration. There is this file in etc.leap that we're going to edit. Now, there. Never do things on your own machine. I'm going to just copy paste it here. All prepared for you. If you are still using Puppet 6, you can just replace Puppet 7 with 6, especially in this line, and it will work. There is like no real difference besides the version. Contrary to upgrades of Puppet in like Puppet 2, Puppet 3, Puppet 4 times 6 to 7 upgrades, like super easy. So just do it maybe. So once we have this, we could go and do the actual upgrade. One thing that I wanted to show beforehand, the system right now is fully up to date. And this is important because otherwise LEAPP would not be able to do its job properly. So you really need to be up to date to the state that is before the upgrade. And then there are a couple of preparation steps. We do not support EPEL on EL8 installations anymore, so we need to remove that repository from the system. And we also do not need the software collections repositories anymore. So we're also going to remove those. LEAPP does remove most of the packages that it doesn't know about automatically, and sometimes it doesn't, and those two are on the list of it doesn't do anything with it. And then you end up with a weird situation where you have an EL8 machine, but then still have EL7 repositories enabled. And I think it mostly works because the versions in EL8 will be newer, but better be safe, right? So purging those. And then we are jumping into the actual LEAPP stuff. LEAPP re-upgrade is a step that the LEAPP tool provides for us that goes and analyzes the system. And once we execute that, it takes a few moments. And LEAPP has all these actors which analyze different parts of the system. One of them is Foreman/satellite. And it decides whether the system is upgradable at all. If it is, it will tell us, yeah, cool. And if not, it will tell us how it thinks it can fix it for us, or we should fix it. Internet, please work. That's what you get for doing things live. Sometimes the internet is slower than it should be. Melanie, do we have like pause music while the thing is running?
You see, this is why we need Partha to join all the calls.
Oh, right. Partha promised a flute concert together with you, I remember.
Exactly, yeah. So if Partha will join, we'll do a musical accompaniment to all work in progress.
Lovely.
I've done. Yep.
So things failed, and this is like totally expected because this is a plain system that we told LEAPP to upgrade, and due to the like configuration differences between EL7 and EL8, it cannot just upgrade it. But it will tell us why it can't. Where's my mouse pointer? Here it is. So we can just go to the report file and read it. There are inhibitors. Inhibitors are steps where it tells you, look, I found this, and there's no way you can continue with it. The first one is the OpenSSH configuration, because it changed between EL7 and EL8. And the hint is you can just add permit root login AS to the SHD config. And the second one is it wants to remove some odd PAM module that I never heard about. And it asks us to tell it, yes, it is allowed to. Obviously, check on your system if you're not using it. But I'm kind of confident that this system is not, and I'm just going to copy paste those steps from the guide, saying, yeah, enable that root login and answer the question. And for some reason, I don't remember, it would sometimes complain about this Pieta ACP module. It didn't do in this run, but the module is actually not supported on Rel8, so just drop it. And now we can just say leap pre-upgrade again. And after sufficient time of flute music, we would see that it actually finishes up with the green state, saying that the pre-upgrade is fine. And we could continue. And this is also the moment where I would end this demo, because there is nothing more to see here. I would then go call leap upgrade, which does the same steps, but actually commits them to a local cache. And then it reboots the machine twice. And after the second reboot, you end up having a fresh and nice EL8 running, and Foreman is again running on it. So I would like to show that now it goes green, and I'll kick off the upgrade, but I don't think that we need that amount of flute music until it really upgrades. A full upgrade of Foreman takes like, I don't know, 20-ish minutes, and I think it's quick, but it's not that quick that it should fit in a full demo or bore you, because most time of it you're watching messages pass by. And here's like, it says end of report, and it's all green, all nice. And now I just can go and say leap upgrade. And with that, I hope that you can have as smooth upgrade experience as my demo hardware that has absolutely no content and no history of odd packages installed. If you do have issues, please come to the community, ask us. Most of the issues that I've seen so far are rather easily solvable. So we'll help you. And thanks.
Thank you very much, Evgeny. Cool. I wasn't sure if we were going to watch to the bitter end or not.
There's no point. Like, I would sit here for another 10 minutes and watching messages scroll by, and
yeah. It's just a shame we don't have Partha today. Next time I'll line Partha up when we're doing something like that.
Cool.
Cool. So I'm just going to take a quick look, Evgeny, but I don't think that there are any questions. But if people want to ask questions in the meantime, I have just one update related to the release announcements. So there was a slight change since I was last talking to Amit, which was only yesterday. So, oh yeah, there's one question for you actually. Oh no. Wait, no, there is not one question. So first of all, for back to the release announcements and the release schedule. So the final update to 3.1, which will be 3.1.3, they've actually started the release process today and are expecting the release to be available later today, probably before close of business in the US time zone. And the reason for the change was that basically we want to test the upgrades from 3.1.3 to 3.3 as part of the second release candidate, instead of doing it on a 3.3 GA. So I think that is all to be added to my announcements in the beginning. And I don't think that there are questions for you, Evgeny, so we can move on to our next demo. There is a question in the chat, but I can type a response to that. So up next is Ron, and Ron is going to talk to us about items related to the host page, as far as I can tell. So it's the host Ansible tab fixes and the new Puppet tab.
Yeah, hi everyone. So today it's really a short demo on my side. Basically, two fixes for issues that was raised also in the community. So basically, in the new host page, if you go to Ansible tab and the roles subtab, there was an issue that when you try to assign new roles, basically you would move one role to the side, and then after a few seconds, it just all it was like undone. All the changes that you made, it was moved back to the initial state. So that was fixed. And the other issue was that, like in my case, when you have only one role, you couldn't actually edit any, like if all of your roles are already assigned, you couldn't press on that edit Ansible roles. So now you can. It was two small fixes, but mainly I wanted to ask for more input from you all, and we still have quite a lot of work here. There are even more tabs that I don't have enough data in my machine, but yeah, basically we are very happy to to get feedback from you. So that was the two fixes for Ansible. And the other demo topic, so a few weeks ago, we added into core and to Foreman free the reports tab with Puppet and Ansible reports. And now we have a new Puppet tab with additional subtabs inside of it. And we are basically reusing that reports data from the reports tab in here, but displaying only Puppet reports. I guess we will do the same also for Ansible. And there's also Puppet details card. Again, I don't have enough data here, but you can expand it, and everything is still kind of work in progress, but we really want to hear what you think. This will be also part of Foreman for free in the Foreman Puppet plugin. Yeah, and we are really looking for more people to join the effort. Nadia is leading it, and you can see in our community Foreman Puppet maintainers weekly meeting. Yeah, so here you can get more updated. And also, if you want to start with Puppet and Foreman, here are really two great materials you can start with. And also how to set up a development machine. Yeah, so that was it. Really quick.
Thank you very much, Ron. I didn't see any questions. I'll just take a quick look. And I think it's probably too short and sweet and clear, Ron. So if you do have any feedback for Ron, just please, if you have any feedback on the ongoing work on the host page, just please let us know on our community forum, and we'd be very happy to hear from you. So now, let me just take a look. So now we have our Nofar is up next, and it's Nofar's first ever time here on the demo. So welcome, Nofar. We're very glad to have you, and tell us all about your RFC.
Yes, so hi everyone. I would like to share with you today the new screenshots that we display in the project's README file. So the current screenshots are a couple of years old, and the layout has changed quite a bit since they were taken. So, yeah, I took some new screenshots, which you can see in the updated README file here on GitHub. And let me zoom in. So most of the pages are the same, except for the new host file page that I added, and also the statistics page was removed. So there are 11 pages, so I'll quickly go over them. That's it. And also, I created this post in the Foreman community to share with you these changes and to hear your thoughts about it. For example, if you think that something is missing or something is not necessary, or maybe if you have other ideas for improvements. So this post is open for discussion, and your feedback is more than welcome. And that's it for me.
Thank you very much. And once we are finished, I will add a link to this also to the YouTube description of the video, and I'll paste one into the live chat now in a second too. So thank you very much for that. Okie doke. So up next then is Adam, and Adam is going to talk to us about the remote execution pull provider overview and quick start. Adam briefly introduced this last time we were here, I believe, and now we get the full show.
Hello. Thank you for having me. As Melanie already said, I'm Adam Aruzicka, and I will expand in more detail what I talked about during the last demo. For those who haven't been at the last demo, we are introducing some changes to the remote execution. We are adding some new stuff, and this will be about it. So I'll start with a little bit of a high-level overview. Historically, we had SSH, where when you run a job from Foreman would delegate the job to a smart proxy, and then the smart proxy would reach out to the target host over SSH, and it would run the thing that you wanted to run. Now, the thing we added is that it can run in a different mode, and the new one is called pull-mqtt. It's configured on the smart proxy, and it changes how the proxy behaves when reaching out to the remote host. In the pull-mqtt mode, it doesn't really reach out to the remote host. All the connections are initiated by the remote client. So to put it in different words, there are no outgoing connections made from the proxy to the client. The part between Foreman and the proxy stays the same. Foreman still delegates the job to the proxy, but then instead of reaching out to the host, the proxy notifies the target host over MQTT. So there is a new component that the proxy connects to and the target host connects to. And once they are connected through this new component, they can exchange information. Once the target host is notified, it pulls the job and runs it. This is the highest level overview, and I'll go into even more details now. So how it works under the hood. We'll start with Foreman again, because it's possibly the simplest, because from the user's point of view, everything should just work the same way it did before. You shouldn't be able to tell any difference. So everything should just work, hopefully. One thing worth noting is that the pull mode is only applicable to script provider jobs. The thing I talked about last time was the rename from SSH provider to script. So if you want more details on that, feel free to rewatch the last demo. To be extra clear, or to put the previous point in different words again, Ansible will always use SSH, or whatever Ansible connection variable is set to, but default it's SSH, so that's what will be used for Ansible. The only thing that does not work the same way, or may not work at all is setting a connection user. Because in the pull mode, we are not really opening any connection as a user, then this setting or configuration or tunable doesn't really make sense. I'm sorry, there's a cat demanding my attention, and I have to throw him from the desk every now and then. Sorry about that. So the next thing that doesn't really work is the effective user, but I'll talk about this a little bit later. So how it works on the proxy side, when the proxy is configured in the pull MQTT mode, the proxy runs MQTT broker. That's the new component. When proxy receives a job from Foreman, it stores it. Then it notifies the target host over MQTT. It waits for the host to pick the job up, and then it just sits there and receives updates from the host, which is running the job. And the job should eventually finish. On the client side, there are a couple new things. The client machines now run Yggdrasil, which is an upstream project for Red Hat's RHC. Yggdrasil, as a client, runs our own worker, which knows how to do the Foreman specific bits. When Yggdrasil starts, it connects to the MQTT broker and listens for messages. When it receives a message, it passes it to our worker, and then our worker downloads the thing to run from the proxy. Now it doesn't use MQTT anymore. It's now pure HTTPS from this point onwards. So it calls to the proxy, downloads the script, it runs it. And as the script runs, the worker periodically sends updates to the smart proxy. Now, I know this was quite theoretical, and we covered a lot of things. So I'll just point out a couple of things that might have gotten lost between the lines. So because the mode is configured on a smart proxy level, there are two slightly odd scenarios that can happen. And that is if you have two proxies, one configured to use SSH and one used to use the new pull mode, and two hosts, and both hosts are reachable from both of the proxies, or at least Foreman thinks it, you may end up in a situation where if you run a job against both of those hosts at once, you may actually be using both SSH and the new pull transport in a single job. And from Foreman, you will not really be able to tell. The other slightly odd scenario is that if you run two jobs against a single host, it may use one method once and the other method on the second try, depending which proxy will get used to contact the host. So this is just something that you should bear in your minds if you decide to play with this. And as I promised, I have some more details about the effective user. Currently, the Yggdrasil and our worker and everything that the worker spawns runs as root. So top privileges for everyone. If for any reason you actually need to run the script as a different user, then you have to use stu or sudo inside the job template itself. It will start as root, so it's really trivial to become a different user. But currently you have to do it on your own. I admit this is kind of lacking, and we should strive for feature parity with SSH. So we may add proper support for this in the future, but this is the current state. Speaking about current state, All this is currently installable in Nightly's. It's almost installable in 3.3 as of yesterday. The demo environment that I have right now is based on 3.3, but I had to pull a Smart Proxy Remote Execution SSH package from Nightly's. It should eventually land in 3.3, but as of yesterday, it wasn't there yet. Now, let's get a little bit more practical and move on to how to set this thing up. So we'll start with Foreman because it's really simple. If you recall, I said that Foreman doesn't really know what kind of a transport is used between the proxy and the target host. So we're done. There is nothing to do on Foreman's side. On proxy side, it is a little bit more involved. There are a few things that need to be done. So to name them, one has to configure Smart Proxy Remote Execution SSH to use the pool-mqtt mode. One has to restart Foreman proxy to make the setting change come into effect. Set up the MQTT broker, install it, enable it, set up certificates, set up access control lists, and it's quite a handful. Luckily for us, there is an alternative. One can just run the installer and pass --foreman proxy plugin remote execution script mode equals pool-mqtt, and it will do all the steps above for you. But if you want to do it by hand to get to know it, feel free to. Now, the last bit that remains to be configured is the client, of course, where in general, we have to have certificates for the machine. We rely on certificates to ensure that hosts are only able to pick up the jobs that belong to them and so on. So it's a security kind of thing. There is currently no way how to run it without certificates. So you really do need them. Then you need to install Yggdrasil and our worker. You need to configure Yggdrasil and you need to start it. That's the general flow. There is a little twist to it depending on how your setup looks like. So if you have Katello, it's actually simple because if you have your clients registered against Katello, they have anti-entitlement certificates and we can rely on them and we can use them. There is even a script that does almost everything for you, which is this Katello pool transport migrate. From its README, it is a script which can be run on a client to migrate from Katello agent to Rex pool transport. And there's described what it does. So that's, sorry about this. So it's somewhat simple with Katello. The script takes information from subscription manager and configures Yggdrasil, and it just works out of the box. How about we take it for a spin? So I have my 3.3 Foreman instance with Katello, and I'm going to register a new host. It will be Rocky 8.6, and it will use an activation key which gives it access to a repository which contains Yggdrasil and our worker. So if I generate the command, copy it, and just run it, it will install Subscription Manager. It will register the host into Katello, hopefully. Okay, so the system is registered. Now, what I have prepared is, here's a simple command. We just downloads the Katello pool transport migrate script. It sets the executable bit on it, and then I can just run it. And it complains that configuration for Yggdrasil is missing and whether I installed it, actually, which I did not. So I can do yum install Foreman YGG worker. It will pull in Yggdrasil as a dependency. And once that is installed, I can just rerun the Katello script. And within a second, it's done. If I look into the logs, sorry, a typo, it's Yggdrasil D. We can see that it's running. It complains about some file missing, but it's not really important to us. Now I should be able to go back to Katello and just run a job against it. So if I go into all hosts, the new host is this adequate soulfly, and I can just schedule a remote job and tell it, hello from pool provider. And if I just kick it off, fingers crossed, it's successful almost immediately. We can look into the output. We should see that it ran. It looks completely as if you ran it over SSH. If you don't trust me, let's check on the remote host. And we can see in Yggdrasil's logs that it is actually starting a job. And it started the script in process 14,544. And then it finished the job in the same second. So this is really the fastest way how you can get started with it. If you have Katello, just run the installer with that option I mentioned a couple of slides back. Register your host, run this script, and it should just work out of the box. Now back to the slides. As I said, that there's a twist with Katello. There is also a twist if you have Puppet, because then you can use Puppet certificates instead of the entitlement certificates. Sadly, there is no quick script which you would just run and it would configure everything for you. But it's on our to-do list to have this somehow work out of the box. Of course, if you don't have Katello and you don't use Puppet, then you have to obtain the certificates from somewhere. And it's really up to you. In this scenario, your setup is probably highly customized and we can't really invent a solution for you. So you need to get the right certificates and you need to configure things to use them. That's kind of an exercise for the user. And then, of course, there are others. The previous slides assumed that the clients are running any flavor of enterprise Linux on x86 or x86-64 architecture. If you're on Linux, still on the Intel platform, but you're not on enterprise Linux, you could, there are no official builds yet, you could just take the RPMs and unpack them. Both Yggdrasil and the worker are distributed as static binaries, so you can just take them out and run them as long as the architecture and the operating system matches. If you're on non-Intel platform or on non-Linux platform, some, I don't know, BSD or Illumos or anything, then compilation from sources is probably the way to go. There are certain areas in which the current flow is a little bit lacking. We are aware of it. What I want to do eventually is have the setup be a part of the global registration. So if you register a host using it and you tell it to configure remote execution, it will set it up for you somehow. The same way, I want to make it so when you provision a host, it gets automatically configured to work with it. There was a plan to wrap Katello pull transport migrate script in an RPM, so it could be deployed using Katello agent. I'm not sure if that plan is still valid or not, but that would be another way we could go. And what I would kind of like to see would be having a job template which would set it up. So if you already have SSH-based remote execution configured, you would just run the job. It would pre-configure all the hosts for you, and then you would just switch the smart proxy to use the pull mode. Alternatively, you could use Ansible, which always uses SSH. So that would be another way to go. And looking at the clock, I'm a little bit over time, but luckily I'm at the end. So thank you all for listening. If you have any questions, concerns, anything, I would be really grateful for any feedback that you may have. And if I'm looking correctly, there is a question in the chat.
Yeah, if you maybe, Maximilian, would you mind maybe asking the questions so that the people watching on the live stream can hear it too?
Sure. So yeah, thanks for showing. It was like surprisingly fast was my impression. Do you think it's always much faster than using SSH? So I can imagine that that could be very useful if you regularly run a lot of small jobs on a lot of managed hosts where this performance improvement would really kick in.
I don't have any numbers to back any claims that I may have, but from my limited testing, it definitely feels faster. I guess it's mostly caused by offloading a lot of things we do to the remote client and not having to do all those things. So that could be a factor, but I don't have any numbers that I could plot on a graph or something.
Jeremy has just written on the chat that in his experience it's way faster than SSH. So if way is measurable, at least it's faster. Yep. Okie doke. So lots of positive feedback about your demo. Also, your cat is welcome next time, Adam, if you want to add your cat.
All right. So next time I'll just stop the demo and we'll do a cat showcase.
Exactly. And I'll get Partha can do a flute accompaniment. Hopefully your cat likes flute music as well. I will just check now that, because I know that people are running maybe a few seconds behind, just to ensure that there are no further questions, because I know that was a lot to take in. So in general, just so far, great feedback, but no further. Yeah, so Samir just says that anytime you see Katello, a cat appears. It's like a law of nature. But I don't see any further questions. Adam, thank you so much for a very clear and useful demo. So I think we are safe to move on. So up next is a demo from Leosh, and Leosh is going to talk to us about changing host content sources. If he's here, Leosh.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Today I got so many problems. Okay, so let me share the screen. And yeah, okay, hello. Yeah, today I'm going to talk about update in Katello. I hope that any cat won't emerge here in my room because I don't have cats, so I hope that's not going to be a problem. I'm going to talk about changing content source. A few demos back, I presented a change in Katello where you can change content source for the host from the index page. And today I want to show you a small update on the new host page, where I edit the link also to the host details. So right now, if you want to change the content source only for the one host, you can go to the detail, and here from the actions menu, you can select the action change content source. And the process is basically same as before. You have to select the new environment, content view, and the content source. And when you hit the change content source, it will update the host. After that, you have to connect to the host, and you have basically two options. First one is to run the script manually. So here is the bash code for all the changes. What it basically does is to configure a new certificate for the new proxy. And as you can see, run subscript manager config to configure the host. Or in an easy way, you can just run job invocation, and we will take care about it. This also, maybe one note, this works only for the case when you have remote execution enabled. If you don't have remote execution, you have to do this, all the stuff manually. And that's everything from me.
Short and sweet. Thank you very much, Leos. And let me see now, just do a quick check. We're still excited about cats over on the live chat. I don't think any questions, Leos, so we can move on to our next demo, which is from Ian, and Ian is going to talk to us about custom alternate content sources.
All right, thanks, Melanie. Let me get my screen shared. All right. Hello, everyone. So I gave a bit of a demo, or not a demo, I gave an introduction to alternate content sources, I think a while ago, when I talked about our designs and some changes. And so now that it's actually getting into Katello, here we are with what they are. So just a quick refresher on alternate content sources. So if you have a repository in Katello, when you sync it, it'll get the repo data, the metadata from the repository, and it'll sync. It'll download RPMs from the repository. But if for any reason you want the downloaded RPMs to come from somewhere else, like maybe a file system location or another web server that you have quicker access to, then you can use an alternate content source, or ACS for short. So it's essentially another area where you'll tell Katello to download RPMs from. And it's per smart proxy. So another use case is in case your smart proxy has a slow connection to your satellite, you could have an alternate content source that's closer to your smart proxy so that you can download your content more quickly. But let me get right into the demo. So what I'm going to be showing is I'll just be kind of giving a demonstration of showing how the alternate content source actually downloads from an alternate spot. So what I have is I have two repositories that I'm hosting locally on my machine. One is called Zoo, and the other one is called Alternate Zoo. So how it will work is I'll have an ACS pointed to the Alternate Zoo repo, and then I have a normal repository in Katello that is syncing from Zoo. And so what will happen is the metadata will get synced from the Zoo repo, and the RPMs will get downloaded from the Alternate Zoo repo. And then I'll also give a demo on just showing a smart proxy sync. Be very, very similar. It's just the difference between these two. You just see the smart proxy and the server and the Zoo repo get switched out. So now the smart proxy is what's syncing from the Katello server. And I will show that. And along the way, you'll see alternate content sources getting created, refreshed, which is like syncing. I'll list them, all that good stuff. And then just to finish the overview, here's my setup. So the Zoo repo is hosted on port 5.3s, and then alternate Zoo repo is hosted at port 4.3s and a 4. And yeah, let's jump right into it. So the very first thing we want to do is we want to create an alternate content source. So I have my terminal here with Hammer. I'll also give a quick show at the end of creating it in the UI, which is looking very nice. So let's get this created first. I'll create one called the zoo ACS. My base URL is pointed at the alternate zoo repo at this port. And my smart proxy ID is 1. So we'll get that created. And now in Hammer, we can list the alternate content sources. So we can see that it was created. So my ACS has an ID of 3. We can also go into the UI and we can take a look to see that the ACS is listed. And so we see our zoo ACS here. Very nice. Okay, so back to business. So now what we need to do is we need to refresh our ACS. So I'm going to do the refresh call on the ACS with ID 3. And so we're refreshing. And so there an error popped up. And that's because if you see at the top here, I did HTTPS instead of HTTP. So what we can do to fix that is we can run an update. So I'll run one of my previous update commands, where I'll edit the base URL, which is where I want to sync from. I'm not using subpaths here because I just have one address that I want to sync from. If you had multiple, you could use the subpaths. So I'll change this to HTTP. I'll make sure the ID is 3, and then I'll update my alternate content source. So yep, alternate content source is updated. Now we'll try the refresh again. Let me clear this. So yep, there we go. And now it's refreshed, and we can go on over. Let's see. So you can see this is the log for my hosted ACS. You can see all these GET requests. So that's what happened when we did the refresh. So I'll just enter down to clear that out. Okay, great. So now that we have refreshed the ACS, we can sync our zoo repo. So what should happen, if I clean this up properly, it will get the metadata from the actual repository itself, which is on the left in my terminal, and then it'll actually download the RPMs from the right. So I'm going to run a complete sync on this. I ran a repository cleanup on this before, so the RPMs should be deleted, and they should get synced, but we will see. Okay, so the sync is complete. Now let's see what happened. Great, so we have lots of gets on repo data here on the left. That's the upstream repository. And then we have all sorts of gets on actual packages themselves on the ACS. So you can see the alternate content source worked nicely. All right, excellent. So now the next thing I'm going to get to is the smart proxy sync. So we need to add an alternate content source to the smart proxy. So what I'm going to do is all I have to do is update my ACS and to include the smart proxy ID in that ACS's smart proxy IDs list. So I'm going to run an update. I should have a prior command here somewhere. Yep, okay, ID 2. And then I want the smart proxy IDs to be an array 1 and 2. So that'll include all my smart proxies. So we'll update that. And great, that's created. Now what we can do is we can, yeah, let's see, I'll try this. We can just double check in Pulp that the ACS was actually created on the proxy. So let's see, there it is right here. This is the Pulp CLI that I'm using. And I'm using the proxy profile. So we can see that that was created. And now, can't forget, you created the ACS over there. Now you have to refresh it again because it's freshly created in Pulp. So we'll just run the refresh again. And then that ran to success. All right. Now I'm going to run a complete proxy sync. And after that is done, I did notice I've been having one issue in my environment where the RPMs haven't been getting downloaded right away from the ACS. but I can at least display it in the console here as we try to download an individual. And it's acting like on demand for some reason. That's just how demos go sometimes. So what I'll do is this is my repository right here. That's actually running on the capsule. You can see the way up here at the top, CentOS 8 proxy devel. So I'll just pick something like this duck RPM. And so I just downloaded it. Let's see. Where was that? All right, this might not have gotten cleaned out correctly. Anyway, so to not waste time, well, what would happen is the capsule would also sync from the ACS. However, I think I did this sync previously to the actual smart proxy, so the RPMs are now cached in pulp, and I'd have to clean those out. So the next thing I'll just show, since we're running a bit on time, is creating an ACS in the actual UI. You just have to go click on Add Source, and we have a nice wizard here. You select your type. Right now, it's only custom. Simplified will be coming hopefully in Katello 4.6, where you'll select products. You can select your content type. I'll do yum. Enter a name. You can enter your description if you want. And here's where you select your smart proxies. I'll stick it on all of them. So the URL and the base pads, the sub pads. Let's pick the pulp repo test fixtures that they have for us. And then let's say I wanted to get RPMs from, let's see, where's my favorite repo? This RPM Z chunk folder. If you want just to pick that one, you could use a subpath. So you can have as many subpaths as you want. I'll just have one here, and it's just a comma separated list. You can select if you want to verify SSL or not. In here, you can select credentials. So you could do username, password auth if you want, or you could use content credentials if you need an SSL client cert or a client key. And then you can also put in a CA here if you need to. And then at the very end, you can review your details. So we have our list of smart proxies. Oh, that probably should be separated. We have our base URL, our subpaths. And then we'll click Add, and then it'll get created if all goes well. All right, cool. That was quick. So here we are, our test yum ACS. And then just to make things complete, we can do a list. And then we can try a refresh on number 4. And then once that's complete, then your system will be ready to pull RPMs from that specific location. And ACSs are completely global. So for any sync, RPMs can be downloaded from those alternate locations. So keep that in mind when you're dealing with alternate content sources. And yeah, that is all for my demo. So next time I'll be giving a demo on ACSs, it'll probably be for the simplified type, or perhaps for some of the other UI workflows that we're working on. But yeah, thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Ian. I will just allow some time for questions. And in the meantime, Leash, you're still with us. There was one question that came in kind of almost immediately after Ian started. I never know how much time to leave exactly because it can be, it can be hard to judge. But basically, Leash, with regards to your demo, is this the equivalent to changing the register through smart proxy after the fact?
Yes, exactly. After we change the content source, the host will consume from that proxy that you set in the form.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Leash, and thank you, Jeremy, for your question. I don't see. Let me see. So Jeremy just says now to confirm content sources in alternative content sources is completely different from changing a host content source in the previous demo, right? Yeah. So I think.
And no, this one is exactly the same, but the main addition was that you can do it right now directly from the host. The logic and everything is same as the previous demo.
Okay.
Well, yeah, an alternate content source, it's just When you think of alternate content sources, just think of whenever you sync, you're now getting RPMs from some other location. I know that term is overloaded a bit. That's why whenever I hear people talk about alternate content sources and drop the alternate, I'm like, make sure you keep the A in there, or maybe we should just call them ACSs.
I don't know. I think personally, I think engineers need to go to need to be able to take some training class on naming things so that you don't run into these issues like immediately next sprint kind of thing. But I appreciate you, Jeremy, trying to clarify that for everyone, and thank you, Leos and Ian, for expanding on that. I think just to be respectful to time, I think we should probably move on. And if there are any questions, we'll take a look at the end. So thank you very much, Ian and Leos. And up next, I hope that he has recovered from the shock of earlier, but Chris is going to talk to us about the new host registration page.
Yes, let me go ahead and share my screen. 1 second here. This will be a quick one. Let me know if you can see my screen.
It looks good, thank you.
All right. So one of the things that we added is this new details page underneath the new host overview. And if I go to that, we have some new things here. And the one thing that I added is this registration details. So it basically will just go ahead. You can actually highlight over that. It'll actually tell you how many days ago it was. That's pretty nifty. I'm not seeing if my mouse might not show it, but hopefully it does. But if you highlight over it, it will tell you. This will actually switch to an activation key. I'll show that in a second here. And then it shows where it was registered through which capsule or smart proxy. So let me see if I have one real quick. I might have forgotten to do that, but basically, let's see. Let me try. Let me see this guy. Let me. Basically, yeah, because it's going to take me a moment to fire that box up, and I apologize for that. But basically, what would happen is this would drop down and say registered by activation key, and it will kind of just list the activation keys. So you can register multiple ones. That's all I had. I wish I could spin up the box, but I don't want to take up too much more time.
Chris, it's no worries. You know, we've had somebody get attacked by a cat, and I think someone's environment not coming up is pretty light penalty to or a light tribute to the demo god today. So no problem at all, Chris. Thank you.
All right.
And then next we have Maximilian, and Maximilian has been working very hard over on Foreman documentation, and he's going to update us on the performance tuning guide now.
Yeah, exactly. Hi, everyone. So I want to say thanks to a couple of people, organizations, and as Melanie said, yes, we moved the performance tuning guide over to the Foreman documentation. So first, want to say thanks to the Red Hat Satellite team. As you can see, it's been already updated in their repository on the Devil branch that the content has been moved. So all contributions that are not specific to a older branch, to a specific satellite version, should or will now directly go into Foreman documentation itself. And yes, we've created a rather large pull request, and I want to say special thanks to Iwood and Jan for reviewing this and to help make the move happen. It got merged yesterday, and we already had another small fix up, so to speak, because we missed some spelling mistakes and some issues here and there, but it's getting better by the minute. Yes, and here it is. So right now, unfortunately, you cannot yet find it in the navigation. That is something that I will maybe have a look at later today or tomorrow. But if you are little bit of a hacker like I am, or if you just know the URL, it's pretty easy to find. Yeah, so it may be surprising, but running a Foreman instance with like 60,000 or more hosts is not something that I do on a daily basis. So if you have some experience, if you're running a really, really, really large deployment, please have a look at it, and yeah, please share some feedback. I think this is one of the guides that really thrive from real-world usage and feedback. Yeah, so everybody is, as always, invited to come over to the Foreman documentation repository. If you're unsure, just create an issue, ping us, and if you want to make a small change, feel free to open a pull request. Yeah, that's basically all I wanted to say. I'm going to post the URL in chat so you can have a look at it yourself. And yeah, feedback, as always, is very much welcome. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Maximilian. And I'll add all the links later to the YouTube description for everything today. So thank you for that. Yeah, I'll paste that into the YouTube chat now too. So we are moving on to our final demo of today, which is a developer-focused demo, and it is related to something that has been discussed in the forum. So Leos, you're up again. If you want to update us on Rails 6.1.
Yes, I don't have anything to present. Just want to remind all plugin maintainers or people involved in plugins in general that Rails 6.1 is almost ready for merge. And the only thing what we know is right now failing some Katello tests. So I really, really hope that someone from Katello is working on the fix, because we want to get the merge of the 6.1 as soon as possible, because after that I will start working on the site work caching system. And that's also blocker for Rails 6.7 and Ruby 3. So yeah, please check your plugins and see if everything works. I posted in the demo post on the community, there is a link to my post about the upgrade and status of the plugin. So if you want to check, you can go there and see the status. And if anything, feel free to ping me and I can help you with everything. Yeah, that's everything from me.
Thank you, Leos. Jeremy just wrote in the chat that Partha is working on that, so that's probably why he isn't accompanying me on Flute during this demo, but we'll have him for the next one. So that's in progress, Leos. So thank you very much for the update.
That's a great excuse for not having Flute today.
Yeah, the only one acceptable. Cool. So I'm aware we are completely over time. Well, slightly over time at this stage. So I'd like to thank everybody who came along today and watched us live. I'd very much like to thank the people who came and demoed. Excuse me, one sec. And I'm losing my voice, so it's a good time to probably wrap up. If you have any questions, excuse me one moment, the cough. So yeah, I'm losing my voice. So thank you all very much. Any questions? Add to the community forum, and we'll see you very soon. All the best.